Okay,
Perfect.
so today's going to be a conversation on rule beliefs, which is just realigning the rules we live by and getting clear on these internal equations we live by so we can remove some of those blockages to happiness and freedom, inner freedom. Create some inner victories, because without inner victories, outer victories are not sustainable. And a lot of us have these rules we live by that really hold us back. So this would be part two. I mean, we did part one before, and this would be part two, which is just a whole new series of rules that we all kind of have. These are the unspoken rules. And the key with these things is the key criteria for evaluation is whether or not these rules are strengthening us or weakening us, not whether or not it's factually correct. Because a lot of times people have rules that are factually correct, like being in a relationship can break your heart and be the worst thing ever for you. Well, maybe that's factually correct, but that's not necessarily a strengthening rule belief if you're somebody who's lonely, right? So it's going to hold you back from what you really want. So facts can be either beneficial or harmful. It's better to focus on the empowering truth instead of clinging to a disempowering fact of the total truth. Okay, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So a lot of times these facts might be right, but they're broken in other ways. So let's go into the first rule belief, which is we're just going to say whatever bubbles up in your brain. And for people watching the recording, just do this with us. And then we're going to score it 1 to 5. Okay. So fill in the blank with whatever bubbles up from your brain, no matter how silly or dumb it sounds. We just want to know how your brain finishes this sentence. Okay, because that's usually what your rule is. So here's what it is. Rejection is what?
Oh.
What does rejection mean to you? Rejection is?
What if nothing pops up in my brain?
Maybe you've just never been rejected. It's just not a theme in your life. Everyone
like I'm just thinking like something that happens, like it's like an experience. That was what came to my head.
Yeah.
Maybe I need more coffee before we answer these fill in the blanks.
No, I mean, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So it's like, okay. Rejection is an experience that can happen. So yours is kind of like a very neutral rule.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yours is a very neutral rule. But let's assess it and see if you can get your brain to bubble up something more exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so question 1. Does it keep things relaxed, fun, and easy to accept instead of creating too much pressure? Yes or no?
Yes.
I think your rule does. I would give it a point. Okay. And it's going to get scored at a 5, and then we'll see how it does. Does it lead to gratitude instead of fear or confusion?
I would say so.
Okay, so we'll give it 2 points.
Yeah.
Now, does it seem purposeful instead of random or aimless?
That I would say no.
Yeah. So I'd say that, and when you told it, that was my initial thought. I'm like, it does seem a little bit aimless, like it's an experience that happens, but there's not really a silver lining to it in that rule. It comes up automatically. Right. So it's got 2 out of 3. Okay. Does it give you a sense of control?
No.
Okay, so we're 2 out of 4, because sometimes these rules can make us feel hopeless, or it can lend a sense of victimhood. Okay. Does it lead to a productive attitude instead of apathy or indifference?
I don't think so. Like you said, it's very neutral. So it kind of like, I feel like the way it's described, it's like hands up kind of thing. Like it's something else is going to take the wheel, you know?
Okay, good. So now what we want to do is, you have a lifelong relationship with the concept of rejection. Okay. So we want to somehow be able to put a spin on that helps us be the people we need to be to create the lives we want, to be able to keep our power. All right. So we got to come up with a better rejection rule.
Okay.
So we want to make it fun and easy to accept, bring in some gratitude, be purposeful, give you the control, and lead to a productive attitude. All right. So, do you have any thoughts right now? Do you want me to run some ideas by you and then we can just pick what you like best and then we can see how it does? What do you think?
Does it have to be one word in general or just a
No,
phrase?
it can be a sentence, right? Like it can be like,
Okay. I don't know how to phrase it, but I guess I'll express my thoughts and like see what you think, because you're always good with wording. Like the way I see it is like rejection is like an outcome, but it's not like the end of the outcome. It's kind of like, it's like a stepping stone almost.
perfect. How about this? We could say rejection is a necessary stepping stone on the pathway to success.
Solid. See? Teamwork.
There you go. Right. So if we call it a necessary stepping stone on the pathway to success,
Yep.
does it make it easy to accept?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a part of the journey. Does it lead to gratitude instead of fear or confusion?
Yes.
Yeah, because now we're knowing that the means justifies the ends, right?
Mm.
Does it seem purposeful now instead of random or aimless?
Definitely.
Yeah, so we're 3 for 3. Does it give you a sense of control instead of hopelessness or victimhood?
Yes.
Yeah, I think by calling it a stepping stone, that implies that we have the ability to step up and take action on that stepping stone and move forward, right? Does it lead to
Right.
a productive attitude instead of apathy or indifference?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. So we got a 5 out of 5 rule. Okay, so rule to live by. If we can just tell ourselves this and internalize it and have that be a part of you. And so when somebody says rejection is, all of a sudden your brain says a stepping stone on the pathway to success. Boom, done. Right? Like now when you're telling yourselves things on the inside and you're living your life, what's bubbling up from the inside is going to be giving you a boost rather than just kind of like neutral. Your rule wasn't bad. I've heard some bad rules. Okay. Some rules are rejection is not an option. Okay. How do you think that one scored? 1 to 5.
0, like it sounds disabling. Yeah.
Another person said, I am a reject. Rejection is me. I am a reject. Okay. Well, how is that going to strengthen us? Right.
Right.
You know, somebody said rejection is painful. Like that's just the rule. Rejection is painful. Like that's going to lead to avoidance of putting ourselves out there and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
I like how you like how it's what comes to mind first, like bubbling to the surface, because sometimes we don't even, I know, we don't really assess like kind of what our initial rules are, right? So it's interesting to see kind of what comes up first.
You know, one person says rejection comes and goes, right?
Mm.
The problem with that one is it doesn't leave you much control, right? Like, and
It's
it
like
doesn't seem,
yeah.
and it seems aimless and purposeless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Another person I spoke to said rejection is a misfortune.
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
Does that really lead to gratitude, right? Or rejection sucks, or rejection is a reason to quit. These are real life answers from real people.
Right.
That's the majority. Yours was one of the best answers I've heard from somebody when I've done this, because most of the time people fill in the blank and it's something just completely soul sucking, right? For rejection, and fear of rejection is something that holds us back. So
Right.
we got a good rule. You know, you could say that, you know, rejection is a master teacher, right? You could just say, you know, my friend Charmaine actually sent me a message. She said, oh, I saw this the other day. Rejection is God's protection.
Oh, wow. I love that.
So
that's a really nice one.
yeah. So you could use that one instead if you like, right? You could say rejection plus reflection equals progress.
Yeah, that's a solid one too.
Right? So I think the idea is to look at it like we're never really rejected. We're only redirected to where we really belong.
Ah, love it.
You know, so
Yeah, because then that just helps you trust in like the bigger picture and everything too, right? And it's more purposeful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see where you're getting.
Ah. All right.
Smart.
Now on this one, I have a whole bunch of ones I use on rules too, but and we can go into any of them, but here's one that I think is good to address that I've never heard somebody talk about. I want you to fill in the blank. Okay. The success of other people, blank. The success of others, blank. What does your brain fill in for the success of others?
I wanted to say is motivating.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. So the success of others is motivating. Great. Now, does that encourage and energize you instead of dampening your enthusiasm? Yeah, right? Like I'd give yourself a point there. Does it give you the control instead of handing it over to others? I think so. You're motivated. You can do something with your motivation. Maybe you could articulate that part a little bit more clearly, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Does it lead to gratitude and acceptance instead of entitlement and expectation?
Well, I think that there's a positive spin on it that you could be like grateful for. Yeah.
Is it focused on the process instead of an end result?
Not really.
Okay. And does it focus on what matters most to help you be the kind of person you need to be to create the outcomes you want?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I do think it's kind of bland too. This one's
okay. So we give it a 3 out of 5, and it was, you know, for being caught off guard, Monica, I think it's a really good score to get as a 3 out of 5. Here's something.
Okay.
Here's some things with the success of other people. The success of other people often is painful for others to witness. They get hit with pangs of jealousy and envy. Okay. Lots of stress and resentment comes from our attitudes towards the success of others. And we need to discipline those attitudes once we realize that they don't serve us. Okay. So for a lot of people, they'll say rejection is a painful reminder of my own failed goals. Okay. Now this is coming from somebody who's obviously going to be stressed out, right? Because every time you go on social media or anything, you see other people succeeding and everyone's bragging about what they're doing. And it's just like, but this just reminds me how little I've done. Another interpretation is that the success of others lowers my value, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's limiting.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised how common people live with that attitude, right? That the success of others is a threat, right? Another one is, the success of others is another lost opportunity for my own success, right?
Okay.
The success of others blocks me from succeeding.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So everything is very, very much like self-drawn.
Yeah. So the success of others is often unearned. Like that's what bubbled up first from someone's mind. The success of others is often unearned, right? A little bit of bitterness, resentment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you see people succeeding, celebrities, just because they're good looking and not much else. Who knows, right? And then that just leads to frustration. Or the success of others takes away my turn to shine, right? Like you see others like this hidden rule that there's only so much success to go around.
No judgment, but yeah, it's interesting to see kind of where the brain directs its focus, right?
Yeah. Or the success of others was supposed to be my success, right? Like there's a lot of that sort of, the ego gets in there with a bit of entitlement
I
often,
see. Yeah, it
right?
sounds like it.
But this is what drives behavior like jealousy and envy. And when people are jealous and envious, they start to enjoy the misfortune of others. So when those who are successful, they might even create some misfortune for others. So this is what can fuel people to being like, you know, being critics online, very critical of people who are successful and trash talking and trolling. It's because they're just bitter at the success of other people and they're jealous and envious under the surface. And then they start to enjoy misfortunes against the successful people. And when you enjoy misfortune and harm against others, that's the epitome of evil. Like that's what a villain does. A villain loves harm against other people. And if we don't have a good rule here, it can literally turn us into a villain. And which is like, do I actually take enjoyment when bad things happen to people out there? Right?
Yeah.
Does a part of me enjoy it? Like, yes, I love seeing horrible things happen to that celebrity or that famous person, or I love that, that person at work who's super successful, that they're going through a divorce right now. Like good. It's good to see karma balance it or whatever. You hear this kind of,
Yikes. Yeah, you do.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why this is an important rule to address. Now, why don't we think about how we can make something a little bit better here?
Mm, the success of others is I want to say it's like a tool. It's like a tool or like a recipe like for my success, or like, you know how there's always the phrase like if you don't know something, try to find somebody who's already done it.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
So I see it as like almost like an educational tool. Maybe that's how I'd respond.
Okay, we can play around with this a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're totally on the right track. You nailed it. And I think you're doing an exceptional job for being put on the spot. Okay. Because it's like
Oh, thanks.
this stuff should be, take people a while to figure out, but you're good at
Yeah.
just coming up with the
Articulating.
right, you're good at coming up with the right energy for an answer. We can figure out the wording later. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
you kind of go to the right spot here. So we could say that it's a tool. The success of others is a tool for our own success by showing what's possible and paving the way, right?
Okay.
We could say the
Yeah.
success of others is an educational event that instructs me on how I can achieve my higher potential. We could say,
Ooh, that's a good one.
okay, we could say that the success of others is, we'll say it's a recipe, using your word,
Hmm.
that I can use to help me evolve and expand.
Yeah.
Or we can say the success of others shows me what's possible for myself if I do the same things they've done. Right. And saying what's possible, not saying guaranteed. I mean, sure, there's luck and other factors involved sometimes. Or the success of others is an opportunity for me to train myself to be happy for other people by honoring how they deserve to experience happiness and success. Right.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an opportunity to think more of the welfare of others and less of ourselves, get out of our own ego. Because when the
Mm.
ego gets involved, we make terrible decisions in life. Let's be honest. I want to
Yeah.
get that. I want to get that on like a coffee mug. When the ego
Yeah.
gets involved, I make terrible decisions. Remember
It's all,
today.
yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
today this happens, right? So
It's
those are
so
some
true.
different ideas. And of those, what do you like out of those? I think you like the
I,
second one I said, right?
yeah, the second one was really solid. Can you repeat it?
Okay, here's what it is. The success of others is an educational event that instructs me on how I can achieve my higher potential.
Yeah, sold.
I think that
Sold.
does nail it. I think that does nail it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's encouraging, it's energizing, it gives you the control, leads to gratitude, focuses on the process, focuses you on what matters most, which is realizing your higher potential. Like that one's a 5.
We love it.
Perfect. So now, and now you just throw that on a coffee mug, okay? Drink from it every day, twice a day, and remind yourself.
Honestly, what a good reminder. You're a coffee mug. It's solid.
Well, here's what I would say. A really good idea is to take whatever wisdom you're trying to internalize and review it at every meal.
Oh,
You're going
that's
to
3
eat.
times.
You're going to eat
Yeah.
anyway. You might as well read your new rule beliefs so that it becomes automatic. So that if I were to say to you, hey, what's your rule on the success of other humans?
Yep.
You say, oh, easy. It's an educational event. It instructs me on how I can achieve my own higher potential. I love it. I love the success of other people. I want to see more of it.
Oh, it's definitely, like you said, empowering and encouraging, which is, I mean, who doesn't want to feel that while eating?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Okay, so let's go into another one here. How about this?
All right.
How about this? What has to happen in order for you to feel worthy? What does your brain answer for that? What has to happen in order for you to feel worthy? What bubbles up?
I say have an impact, but I know that's again a little bit broad.
No, don't judge your answer. Just tell it like
No.
it is. Have an
That's it.
impact.
Impact. Yes.
Okay, good. Now, this is an important category because I think so many people struggle with poor self-concept. And I believe that poor self-concept is behind a lot of the poor thoughts and behaviors going on out there, and the reason people are not as happy as they could be. And I think people deserve happiness. And I think if we can kind of uproot some of these hidden rules under the surface, it might help with that. And I'm motivated to do it because strangers care, and I care about people. And so that's why we're doing this. Now,
Yes.
let's have an impact. Okay. In order to feel worthy, I need to have an impact. And by all means, I think general society would say, Monica, that's a great rule. Good for you. I'm holding you to a higher standard because I know you're capable of achieving it. All right. So
All right.
let's score this one 1 to 5, see how it does. Number 1, can you satisfy this rule yourself without depending on factors outside your control? Yes or no?
No.
No, you can't. Or having an impact requires another human being to have an impact on, right?
Right.
And even if
That's
you're doing everything right, it's possible you might not have an impact.
Yeah.
Or your impact might not be realized until after you're long dead and gone. Right? Like look at so many people in history that their impact came long after they had left, right?
Right.
They were doing the right things, you know?
Yeah.
All right, number 2, can it be accomplished today?
Yes.
Okay. All right, number 3, is it focused on potential instead of performance?
No.
Okay, and the reason that's disempowering is because we can't really guarantee performances all the time. And even when you perform good, you're not going to get the outcomes you want and everything else. So it's anyway, and we want to make sure, here's what this is all about. I want to make sure that somebody has sense of worthiness within arm's reach at all times. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I want it to be something you satisfy your day today, yourself, focused on potential. Now, here's a question. You know, in order to feel worthy, I have to have an impact. Here's a question 4. Is that clear and concise instead of being vague, obscure, or ambiguous?
No.
Okay, so because I could say, what does it mean technically to have an impact? Like,
Yeah.
what is having an impact and what is not? If I open the door for somebody, is that having an impact?
And yeah, you can't quantify it really.
Yeah, so then it becomes, there's just this general, like, nebulous thing we just can't grasp. It's intangible. It's like having an impact, or how much of an impact do you have to have? Right? Like some people are completely unreasonable.
Fair, very fair.
So it's kind of like, number 5 is it simple without too many conditions to satisfy all at once? I think it's simple. I would give it that point, right?
Yeah.
So we got 2 out of 5 on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got 2 out of 5. Would you like to upgrade this one to a 5 out of 5 so you can be more empowered? See what I did there?
I love using it. Yeah, I love when you use my terminology. It's not mine, but
Yeah.
yes.
I know it's your business branding.
Yes, that's branding.
First of all, and I can't help but use it because you've chosen such optimal word choices. Like, you can't really improve on that. So we end up at the same place. We're choosing powerful word choices. We end up at the same place. Okay.
Love it.
So once again, our worthiness rule, we want to score it 1 to 5. Right now it's a 0, or no, sorry, you're a 2 out of 5.
2.
By the way, most people I take through this, like, every rule is a 0 to 5. So if anyone's watching along and you're like 0 for 15 right now, just know that there's nothing wrong with you. Like, most people are there. Like, we are innocent. Okay. Nobody is trained to do this stuff out there.
No.
Not part of our schooling. I would submit to everybody that you were just not trained on any of this stuff. Right. So it's like, hey, look, of course you're going to have crappy rules. Like, you just never been coached on this. Right. So let's go into what would be a better worthiness rule. What would be a better worthiness rule? And you just tell me, like, the energy of your thoughts, and I'll just try to put your thoughts, translate it into words for you.
I am worthy if I take small steps daily to maximize my potential.
Now I have to just highlight one point. It's in order to feel worthy.
In order to feel worthy. Oh.
Not in order to be worthy. Because I would submit to you, we're all worthy no matter what. But
yeah, right.
But
True.
Sometimes we just don't feel that way.
Right.
I think I have the sentiment of what you're trying to say. If you want me to throw some ideas out there.
Yeah.
All right. We're a team. All right, go team.
Call a friend. It's like on the game show.
Lifeline. I need a 5 out of 5 worthiness rule. What do you got? Okay.
I would definitely call you first.
I'd say what we want to do is just say, I need to remember, rather than I need to do, or I need to take an action. I just need to remember that I'm a highly capable learner with high potential inside me.
Yep.
That I'm a highly capable learner with high potential inside me, right? Or I just need to, in order to feel worthy, I just need to remember my capacity to share love and wisdom with others. I've done it before. I've done it before, and I can do it again. Right? Or I just need to pause, to build other people up and remind them how worthy they are. And in that moment, I feel valuable to them and worthy, right? So if you want to feel worthy, make other people feel worthy.
Yeah, that one speaks volumes for sure.
But when I came up with that one, I put in, I just need to pause. Because it kind of gets us thinking of the welfare of others, right? So I just need to pause and make other people feel worthy, right? And then when you're making other people feel worthy, guess what feelings you receive? As you give, you receive, right? So you want to feel worthy, give worthiness, right?
Yeah.
Or we could say, in order to feel worthy, I just need to pay attention to all the ways I'm being loved and valued in this moment in my life. Like you could say, okay, well, I'm being loved and valued by my grandma, my mom and dad, my best friend, my boyfriend, my coworkers, my clients. Like you could just be like, all these people love and value me, right? Like you'd be like, I shouldn't forget that stuff. I don't want to have amnesia.
Right.
I don't want to forget the good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
or you could just say, in order to feel worthy, I need to remember all the moments in my life when I felt worthy and remember how I'm capable of more of those moments in future. Right?
Very
Like you might
lighthearted.
say,
Yeah.
for you as a coach, you might say, well, I felt really worthy when I helped that client so that they can keep up with their kids and they're finally out of pain and they're feeling good about themselves. And then you can be like, I can do that again. I could do that again for more people. And you can be like, I'm worthy. Like that's a valuable contribution to the world. It really is giving you that end goal of impact in a meaningful way, right?
Right.
Because otherwise impact is so ambiguous. I mean, I can leave a footprint in the snow out front and I left an impact, literally. I can satisfy your rule on worthiness. I am worthy. Look.
Thanks, Brennan.
Right? All in good fun.
No, I know. That was hilarious. It was a literal impact. Yes.
I know. I'm
Nailed
following Coach Monica's rules here. Make an impact. Here we
man.
go. Boom. Okay.
Footprint in the snow.
Out of those, I threw a bunch of worthiness rules I came up with, at you. These ones I've verified are all very empowering. They all belong on a mug, all of them. I'm gonna have a lineup of mugs with all these things on it. But anyway, out of those, which one did you kind of like the most? Which one, or what kind of resonates or speaks to you most? What theme?
The one where like give and receive. Like if you want to feel something, then give it. Right.
Okay,
That
good.
one.
So in order to feel worthy, I need to pause and make other people feel worthy.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's your new worthiness rule. Now, can you do that yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Can it be accomplished today? Is it focused on your potential?
Definitely.
Is it clear and concise?
Yeah. I think it's actionable for sure.
Is it simple? Right?
Right. Yeah.
Here's how I've done that one. Okay. What I did was this. I gave up coffee, as you know. Okay.
Yes.
And I started to every morning, instead of coffee as a pick-me-up, I started to leave voice recording, encouraging messages to people.
Oh, that's so nice.
Just to like hype them up.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And even though, even though I didn't have their reaction in their moment, then my phone ended up getting all these messages back, right? Like voice recordings. Like I took a moment to like pause and think about, how is this person making a positive contribution just by like being a father or being balancing everything they're balancing in their life. And, although other people don't realize it, they've got a lot going on and yet they're still making the effort to do it all with the greater good of everyone in mind, even though it can be tired, it can be a struggle at times. And, and then I just tried to come up with a whole bunch of sincere compliments. And I did that. And that was an experiment I came up with. I just thought, how else can I, if I cut out coffee, right? What might be a better replacement I can do? And then I just felt that after doing that, I just felt like, oh, okay, I feel good. I feel uplifted, almost like a caffeine buzz.
No,
right?
That's beautiful.
But then it's like, I could do that again today. I might do it again today after the call. I might just leave a message for somebody, and it's like, and once again, if we just did that every day, we'd feel worthy. Right.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
And it takes
distracting focus.
Takes 30 seconds. Right. All right. You want to do one more?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, there's a
Wow, the
bunch.
time is flying. Holy smokes.
There's a bunch, like we could do problems. We could do pain and suffering. We could do money. What do you want to, we could do,
That's pain. Pain and suffering.
okay,
Let's do that.
pain and suffering. All right, well, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's why.
And I've had to, you just went for like, that one is, all right. So pain and suffering.
Your facial expression, you're like, oh, she
Because
wants to go down
I'm
that
like, you
road.
know how to pick them. You know how to pick them because you don't know how long it took me to come up with solutions on that one. I've literally spent years trying to put a positive spin on pain and suffering and figure out how to do that. Right? Okay. So
let's hit it.
All right. So here's what I'm going to say. Just straight up. Pain and suffering is what?
A teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pain and suffering is a teacher. Now, I would say, Monica, that's a very mature rule, right? And not the norm. Okay. So most people do not have a rule that is looking at pain and suffering as a teacher. Okay. So
I think if you asked me this like maybe a year ago or in a couple of different moments in my life, I definitely would not respond this way. But yeah, no, but I hear you. Yeah, it's.
Well, let me just tell you some other things people might say.
Yes.
Pain and suffering is a threat and burden. Pain and suffering is something unwanted that shouldn't happen.
Yes.
Pain and suffering is something I don't deserve more of.
I've heard these.
Pain and suffering helps me get more love and attention. Right? Pain and suffering is a painful reminder of the injustices of the world from an unjust God.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Pain and suffering blocks our ability to connect with people, clouds my thinking, disrupts my decision making, and blocks my happiness. Okay. Pain and suffering is something that needs to be avoided at all costs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now, and the person who told me that one was struggling with just being sort of delayed in their development, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because they were almost remaining infantile, and comfort was their top priority in life. And so they would not do any hard things. Right. And we're finding that reality was now even more difficult to handle because they had not been strengthened through challenge. Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I could see where, like, yeah, if comfort is your priority, I could see why you would view pain and suffering that way, right? Totally.
And then some people said pain and suffering is something I need to alleviate in others so that I can feel good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. So anyway, those are some different examples. So why don't we go into your rule and we'll just score it and then we'll see if we can make it a little bit better. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Does it lend itself to peaceful acceptance instead of creating too much pressure? That pain and suffering is a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I'd give you a point on that. Does it lead to an attitude of embracing rather than an attitude of avoiding?
Yeah.
Yeah, and pain and suffering is a part of our reality. So I want to make sure people embrace it. So when these questions I came up with to score all of these are very much based on each rule and its place in the human experience, right? Now, does it encourage and energize you instead of dampening your enthusiasm?
This I would say no.
Okay.
Not fully. No.
Does it focus you on what matters most in life?
Not really. No.
It does focus you on learning, though. If you say pain and
True.
suffering is a teacher and is learning one of the things that matters most in life.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I would give you credit on this one.
Okay.
I'd argue that your rule is better than you're judging right now because
Yeah.
it's learning focused, right?
No, it's yeah. It's just, to me, I guess when you're focusing on it being a teacher, I feel like it's still kind of like, it's not empowering like you to like take action per se. It's just kind of like a thought, like, oh, it's a lesson and there isn't like an action step on that. That's kind of where my brain goes.
Okay. Well,
But yeah.
maybe, yeah. So maybe it could be expanded on, really. Okay.
Of course. No, of course.
Now, does your rule support your life goals instead of serving as a roadblock?
It could.
Maybe we give it a half point there.
Yeah, now we're getting like 0.25s.
Yeah, of course. All right, perfect. So what did we end up with here? We ended up with like 2.5. 3.5, 2.5, something like that.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Now, why don't we go into a better pain and suffering rule? Okay. So,
Yeah.
Do you want me to just throw some ideas at you?
Sure.
Here's what I would say with your rule. I might beef it up. And I might say pain and suffering is a master teacher, because when you learn through pain, tears, and heartbreak, you remember the lessons better.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Master teacher makes a huge difference.
Yeah. See what I did there? I alley-ooped it. Right? Okay.
Yeah, you did.
We could also say pain and suffering is a friend and guide. It gives us motivation to make better choices. It protects us. It teaches us. It keeps us humble. It keeps us from getting too worldly, and it can be controlled and managed through a shift in attention, focus, and attitude.
I like the shift and the redirection. I think pain and suffering definitely redirects us to even like greater happiness too, because you see the contrast, right?
How about this? Pain and suffering is an adventure buddy that brings us experiences beyond our wildest imagination, with people to meet, places to go, conversations to have, and different thoughts to contemplate. The experience creates the opportunity for us to find new wisdom and new habits that we wouldn't have found otherwise.
Oh yeah, that is the most enduring. Like that was adventure buddy. Like it almost makes everyone want to tag pain and suffering along.
It's like it
Come
really
on,
is.
going over.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, here's the thing when it comes to pain and suffering, and I've helped coach people through this a lot, is it's like, let's say somebody has chronic back pain, chronic hip pain, shoulder pain, whatever it means to you will influence how much you feel the pain, right? The meaning you give to pain influences it, because it's a very neurological phenomenon. So, when a bodybuilder is lifting weights, they feel the pain in the biceps and they embrace it. And they don't feel traumatized by their bicep workout. They feel fulfilled. Right?
Yeah.
But when somebody feels like just a random pain, the same type of pain in a random body part at a random moment while they're sitting at their desk, they have a little bit of a freak out. Like, what is that? Right? Like, it's just like, this isn't supposed to happen. Whereas the other person's saying, this is supposed to happen. That's the difference.
Right.
This is supposed to happen and it makes me stronger. Right? That's ultimately how we want to look at it. So we could say this also. Pain and suffering is a spiritual GPS. It can disillusion us from the failure methods of living life when something seems, so we could also say that pain and suffering is a choice, right? It's an attitude and opinion of mind. It's a decision that I should not be experiencing what I'm experiencing, but if I understand and appreciate it, I can relieve the sensation of suffering. Right? So you could say that pain and suffering is a great cleanser of karma. The closer you are to God, the more you suffer because you no longer push away your tests, right? You could call pain and suffering a form of grace. It gives you strength inside and the freedom to do what you have to do, and helps you learn the things you need to do to get out of suffering forever. You know, a lot of times people think, what have I done wrong to deserve this? But perhaps it's like, what have you done right that drew this blessing of pain and suffering to you? Remember that freedom comes through pain as well as through joy, right? A lot of times it was our most painful events in life that led to the greatest lasting freedom thereafter. But we just need to pay attention to that. We could say pain and suffering can be a pathway to redemption and prod people to greater heights in spirituality and love and wisdom. You know, there's one that I like from, I think it's applied from St. Francis of Assisi. He said something like, I think, you know, pain and suffering is an opportunity to demonstrate love for God, which is the surest of all human endeavors. Like, the physical body belongs to God, not me. So let God do what God wants with it. You know, thank you for giving me the opportunity to please you.
Yeah.
Right. You could say pain and suffering is a life coach. It pushes me to what I need to do in order to progress.
Simple. Love it.
Yeah, or pain and suffering is a setup for salvation. The greater the suffering, the more triumphant the salvation. And if salvation hasn't come yet in this lifetime, it's not the end. Think long range, keep one foot in eternity. This human lifetime is not all there is. So anyway, we have a whole bunch of different ideas I've thrown at you. What are the general ones you like there?
Definitely adventure buddy.
Perfect. Pain and suffering is your adventure buddy. Opportunity to find new wisdom, meet new people, create new habits you wouldn't have had otherwise. Perfect.
I think that's so lighthearted and so encouraging. Seriously.
It totally is. It totally is. All right. Now, all we need to do next is we've come up with 4 new rules. Okay. 4 new rules. Now we just need to reinforce the new rules. Okay. So whatever we focus on creates our reality. So we need to focus on creating these rules that are empowering and embedding them into our conscious awareness so they become a part of you, right? You might want to convince yourself more of these perspectives. Go for confirmation bias. Just look for evidence it's true. Okay. Apply it in your life. Give yourself this attitude and see how it works. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to the old screwed up rules, right? Like,
right.
You know, and then just say, you know, like, how can you stay better in touch with these new rules and attitudes and perspectives? You know, can you make a poster, have a daily reflection, read them over every time you have a meal, or teach it to somebody else, walk them through it. You're going to learn it better. When you do this kind of work, you'll be surprised how much your rules rule you. Like, there are rules worth identifying, right? Because these rules are ruling us. So, you know, for example, if somebody says pain and suffering is something I should avoid at all costs, well, it's pretty easy to anticipate that they're going to avoid challenge in their life. They're always going to hold back. Low threshold for tolerance. They're going to be they're going to be the opposite of resilient. Okay.
She's here somewhere.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right. So
awesome.
that was rules part 2. Any key takeaways, thoughts on this conversation?
Well, I have a question. So essentially like going through like part 1, part 2, part 3, like would part 3 be more like even more questions to kind of uncover? Like, is that how these progress?
Yeah, like in part 2, I might go into money, I might go into problems, I might go into the unknown, I might go into my past, work, my spouse, partner is, the purpose of the world is, you know, in part 3, we want to get into like, in part 3, we'll get into some of the heavier ones, like death is, and stuff like that, because it's kind of like, you know, or, you know, so anything like where my body is, right? Or all these different types of things we might get into. It's just getting into the heavier ones.
Gotcha.
But I could also like just pick and choose. Like I could just give you a set list, be like, of these 12, which ones do you think we should address?
Right.
You know, like
Right.
somebody might have an issue, you know, it could be like God is or love is, you know, depends on the person, right?
Okay.
We're just going off the cuff. I mean, I didn't even plan on doing pain and suffering today. You picked that one. I just kind of threw that one out there, but
yeah. Yeah. It's an important one. But yeah, in terms of takeaways, I feel like when it comes to like day to day, we don't really question like rule beliefs. I know I don't. And it's kind of the driving force to a lot of our actions or the way that we think. So in terms of takeaway, like I just think it's important to kind of like check in and navigate it differently. Like even just word choice, like it was so powerful. Like even just kind of brainstorming and having that word choice change.
Yeah.
Or have it be more focused on like is it like empowering? Is it something like you can act on now, or are other people involved? Like those are really like big changes. So yeah. Takeaway is how important it is to actually just like kind of challenge our thoughts and where our real beliefs are, for sure.
Yeah. All right, you nailed it. Awesome work out there today. New rules make you more empowered moving forward. And you know, thanks for sharing your wisdom and time with other people who might watch the recording and benefit from it in future. Of course, you and I are doing this just because we care about strangers, and if we're gonna learn and get out of suffering and find a greater happiness in life, we want to help other people in the human experience to do the same. So that's what it's all about. We're all one team in this journey from ignorance to understanding in all things. All right, let's go team on 3. Oh, and by the way, teach this to like 3 people if you can.
Okay.
These 3 rules, teach it to 3 people. And the reason is this: so many people are under spells of suffering that they don't even know about. And these are that we just talked about 4 spells of suffering.
Yeah.
They don't know they're under it. They're telling themselves this all the time, and it's creating suffering. They might say, in order to feel worthy, I need to make 500,000 a year, be 12% body fat, and have none of my kids be fighting, or something like that. Like, and so they can never, they're blocking their experience of joy in life. And so this can break people out of those spells of suffering, just having this kind of a conversation. So all the power is with you. You decide what happens next. Okay.
Perfect.
You get to decide how much action you take on embedding these rules and how much you get to take on teaching them or sharing the recording or anything else. All the power now rests with you. Okay, let's do go team on 3.
Awesome.
1, 2, 3, go team.
Here we go. Go team. Thanks, Brendan.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.